I'm joined now by one of the members of that committee, Congressman Jamie Raskin, a Democrat from the state of Maryland. Congressman Raskin, good to talk to you again. Here's more of what Leader McCarthy had to say in his statement, writing, currently the House has a standalone oversight committee, oversight authority in each committee, and 3 new oversight bodies established in the CARES Act. The roster the Speaker has chosen makes clear that this is not an honest effort at transparency and accountability, but rather another attempt to politically damage the Trump administration. I want to give you a chance to respond to that. And as he points out, there are already oversight committees which you sit on. Why more?
So, well, thanks for having me. We're spending more than $2 trillion, and the numbers are going up to try to repair the damage of this awful crisis. And the money's going out in different directions: small business with the PPP program, unemployment insurance, large industry, and so on. We have always taken the position that there should be a special committee that's focused on following the people's money. This is our money. The money belongs to the taxpayers. So the explicit historical model here is the Truman Committee during World War II, when Harry Truman had hundreds of hearings during the war and ended up saving the people $15 billion in profiteering and corruption and so on. So to say, well, there's lots of committees that could do it is sort of like saying everybody's responsible, which we know means nobody's responsible. That's one of the problems taking place in the administration today. Who is in charge of the overall recovery effort? Who's in charge of the reopening effort? Nobody knows. So we want to make sure that there's one committee in the House of Representatives that is zealously pursuing the people's money, making sure that that money is spent honestly, efficiently, and consistent with legislative purpose.
So talk to us a little bit about your role on this committee. What do you plan on doing, and does the committee intend to work remotely in all of this?
Well, we will be in Washington as much as we can be in Washington. We were hoping to go back next Monday, May 4th, but the Capitol physician recommended that we not, since the levels of the virus continue to go up in Maryland and Virginia and in D.C. And so we've postponed that by a week. But look, we will conduct the oversight we need to conduct by any means necessary, and that includes long distance, by Zoom, by video, in addition to meeting in person. The committee has not yet met. That's tomorrow, so that's, I'm sure, one of the first things that will be on our agenda, discussing how we're going to meet and how we're going to get going to make sure that there's real integrity and honesty in the execution of these programs.
Let me share with you, Congressman, the statement that we just got from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence on the origins of the coronavirus. It says, in part, that the intelligence community concurs with a wide scientific consensus that the COVID-19 virus was not man-made or genetically modified. The intelligence community will continue to rigorously examine emerging information and intelligence to determine whether the outbreak began through contact with infected animals or if it was the result of an accident at a laboratory in Wuhan. Is this something that your committee will consider investigating? And if not, should another committee look into the origins of this virus?
Well, again, our committee hasn't met, so we haven't discussed that. It seems as if the intelligence community has been focused on that question and has brought back results on it. We're far more interested, I think, in making sure that the people's money gets to its intended beneficiaries. We want to make sure that it's the people who have the most need who are getting the small business money, unemployment insurance money, and not people who have the most greed and people who are trying to profiteer and rip off the system. We also want to make sure that reopening takes place consistent with scientific and public health standards. So we will be focused, I'm sure, if I've got anything to do with it, like a laser beam, on testing, on contact tracing, on instituting public health protocols so we can get America out of this nightmare.
Let me ask you, and switching gears here for a moment, because the president is tweeting this morning about his fired National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn. What happened to General Flynn, a war hero, should never be allowed to happen to a citizen of the United States again. Those are the words of the president. A federal judge has unsealed a new set of documents, apparently from an FBI official, about the Bureau's interview with Flynn. One handwritten note reads, quote, "What's our goal? Truth, admission, or get him to lie so we can prosecute him or get him fired?" This, as you obviously know, is going to fuel a lot of speculation that the president will pardon General Flynn. Let me get your reaction to these new documents and what they might mean for Michael Flynn's case.
I mean, that's got nothing to do with our committee. Look,
but you sit on the judiciary. You sit on the Judiciary Committee.
Sure.
Is this something you would investigate if President Trump does pardon General Flynn?
You know, Michael Flynn was convicted of criminal offenses against the United States, and I'm sure the Judiciary Committee will look at that if it becomes relevant. But look, what's our committee's assignment? We now have more than 60,000 Americans who are dead because of this virus. More people have died in the last 3 months from this virus than died in more than a decade of the Vietnam War. We've got more than 1 million people who have contracted the disease. This is an absolute public health and national security emergency that we're dealing with, and this committee is going to be focused on that. It's going to be important for us not to be chasing the tails of every wild goose chase that somebody wants us to get involved with. We've got to focus on
right. But let me just ask you really quickly, Congressman, if you are focused on the pandemic, which rightfully you should be doing, aren't you also concerned, and shouldn't you be watching out for any abuse of power that takes place while the country is focused on this pandemic?
Well, absolutely, we should.
Okay. I just want to make sure I want to make sure that is still on your radar, that these things are not going ignored or unaccounted for.
Well, very much so. In fact, the whole purpose of this is to make sure that Congress, which is the lawmaking branch of government, which has a constitutional power and duty of oversight, is exercising all of its powers to make sure that the people's money is being spent in accordance with law and is not being ripped off for other purposes, and also that the money that we've allocated is working to the betterment of the condition of people in all 50 states and the District of Columbia and the territories, and is getting us back to work, moving us in the direction of reopening through testing and through contact tracing and through the strictest possible public health regime. We know how to do this. We just need to make it happen.
Congressman Jamie Raskin, sir, thank you very much for your time this morning. Appreciate it.